All right, so just like trig functions have identities, so do our hyperbolic trig functions. So we have our basics here for our hyperbolic functions, and we can use any of these because this is our definitions. And then these are also true. So what we're going to be doing is, if they're asked to prove this, well, we can't use these. We've got to go back and use these. Those are the two different types. So I'm going to show you 3 different ways that we can do proving identities. So the first one is we're going to actually prove one of the identities that we can use. So we're going to prove that the hyperbolic cosine of x plus y is this. And how we do it is we're going to take this and plug it into here, or we're going to take this side and plug it in here. And that's the side I'm going to do because this one's a lot more complicated than this one. So we always start with the more complicated to make it look like the less complicated. So we're going to plug in x for cosh, y for cosh, x for sine, sinh, and y, and then we're going to multiply them out. So we end up with e to the x plus, I'm going to zoom it in a little bit, e to the negative x over 2, and then we're going to multiply that to e to the y. I'm going to be very careful here. So I'm going to put that one in green so that we know it's y. Let me make this a little smaller. So e to the y, e to the negative y, plus, and then 2. Alright, so that's our first one. That's just hyperbolic cosine of x, hyperbolic cosine of y. And now we're going to do it with the hyperbolic sine. So plus, big parenthesis, big parenthesis. So what I'm going to do is they all have that 2, and then hyperbolic sine is minus. See? So that's the only difference, is the hyperbolic sine's minus, hyperbolic cosine's plus. So now I can put e to the y, x, sorry, almost did that, x, e to the negative x, and then my e to the y, e to the negative y. So let's double check and make sure everything is correct. So I plugged in the y into here, y and y, perfect. I plugged in the x and x. All right, so now all we have to do is multiply this out. And so if you look at the denominator, it's just 4 all the way across. So we already know it's going to have a common denominator of 4. So all we're going to do is multiply the ones on the left together using FOIL or box method, your choice, and the same thing over here. So we're going to get e to the x, y. So e to the x, e to the y. And if you remember, we multiply, we add them together. So we're just going to write them right now. So that right there, you can already see, is my e to the x plus y. That's what I wanted. So that's part of the hyperbolic cosine. So this one right here is already that, if we can have a 2 in front because there's a 4 on the bottom. All right, so we're already working everything perfect. So now we're just continue our distributing. So this one times this one. So plus e to the x, e to the negative y, and then we continue to the next one. So e to the negative x, e to the positive y. So plus e to the negative x and e to the y. And then we finish it with e to the negative x, e to the negative y. All right, now we move on to the second part. Plus, this is now the next part. So same thing, e to the x. And you see they're just going to form the same thing with different signs. So that's now a minus, not a plus, because it was 2 multiplied. So minus. So this is e to the x times e to the negative y. So that would be minus here. And then now we're moving on to the next term. So minus and minus plus is minus, so e to the negative x, e to the y. And then the last one is a negative times a negative, so positive. All right, so now all we have to do is I'm going to shrink this a little bit and have you look at it for a second. And so the nice thing with identities is it's always user error if there's any issues. So we have e to the x, y, and e to the y, and e to the s. That's 2 of them. Now I'm going to rewrite it. Oops, wrong color. I'm going to rewrite it now with all in the same ink. All right. And then this one cancels this one. You can see why I had the red ink. E to the x, y, and then that's minus. And then this one is the same as this one, so they cancel. So now all we have left is the last two, and that's 2 e to the negative x, e to the negative y, all over 4. And so the 2 cancels, so we end up with e to the x plus y. You see it? But we're going to take this in slow steps. So 2 x, I just want to write it, x, y. Why didn't I get rid of the 2? There we go. We're getting rid of the 2. Plus e to the negative x, e to the negative y all over 2. So everything is canceled by 2. And then now that's addition, so we now know it's e. See, we are proving an identity, so we need to make sure we do one step at a time. So we know, I mean, obviously we could have jumped that, but just to keep it. And there you have it. We're done. Therefore, it's true. So you can see, oh, we didn't write it. It's not quite true. I got to actually finish it. So this is cosh x plus y. And then now I can come back up here and say cosh x, cosh y plus, oops, forgot the h in there. All right. So this is this. Simplified becomes this, which becomes this, which becomes this, which becomes this, which is this. So therefore, this is equal to this. We're done. So we really should write it, but I don't want to. That's a massive thing. Therefore, this is true. All right. Let's try another one. So on this one, what we're going to be doing is taking one of our identities that we already know and modifying it. So you can see that we have cotangent, hyperbolic cotangent squared minus 1. Well, what is hyperbolic cotangent? Cotangent, what happened here? These got all cut off in the printing. There we go. All right, so we can see that our hyperbolic cotangent is just the cosine squared, right, over sine. So now if we take this right here and we modify it, it will create this. Okay, so we're going to take what we know, our hyperbolic cosine squared minus sine squared. And now if someone said, well, how do you know that's true? You would do exactly what we did here. We would take our two hyperbolic cosine and hyperbolic sine functions and we'd plug them in to show that they make 1, and they will, with simplifying. Okay, so now we need to turn this one into this. So to do that, it would be dividing by hyperbolic sine. So we're going to take each of these and divide them by hyperbolic sine, and we're going to do that in another step. So cosine squared x minus sine squared x is equal to 1. And so now we can divide by sine squared all of them. And so we end up with, oops, put it in green, hyperbolic cotangent minus 1 equals hyperbolic cosine, or cosecant. Right, now our last one, we're going to just convert one into the other. So if we take one side, we can take this one or the other side and convert it into the other, we can prove our identity. So this one is equal to this. And that's one of the ones that we already proved at the very, very beginning, that our x plus y is equal to this. So all we have to do is take x and replace it for the x and the y. So it's just cosine, cosine, sine, sine. The way I always remember these, by the way, is cosine's a selfish function. If you look at anything, he always puts himself first. So you can always remember that. Sine is very unselfish, all right? And it doesn't work that way. Hopefully sine would be selfish, but it's not. Sine will like to share, so... See, sine likes to share. I'm going to go first, but you can go second. Cosine's like, I'm going first complete. So you can go last. So we plug those in. So this would be hyperbolic cosine. Hyperbolic cosine. So just plugging it in. Plus, oops, let's not put the equal on there because we are proving this. Although it's fine. Hyperbolic cosine x. Hyperbolic, I don't need the parentheses, only one term. Cosine of x plus, and then now it's sine's turn. And so if we put those together, you can see this is hyperbolic cosine squared plus hyperbolic sine squared, and that's it. So those are the 3 different ways. So you can use our definition of hyperbolic cosine and sine and plug them in and simplify. Or you can take one of the identities that we already have and modify it to make it work for the way you want it. Or you can take one side and then plug stuff in using that identity.